You know what this cover reminds me of? The internet. That is 100% what it's like to talk about politics on the internet.
Argofont Book Review, Argofont Book Review.
This book was written by Peter Larangis. In the last book, Abby took over as club president for a week, and it was a disaster. She bankrupted the club and forced all the others to clean up her mess. Kristy blames Stacy for the problems with money, which is unfair because Stacy was in New York at the time. Continuity. So Kristy is extra determined to bring law and order back to the Babysitters Club. Disaster strikes because Jessie has a new ballet class that meets on Friday. She wants the club to change its Friday meetings to Thursdays in order to accommodate her. Wow, that's a pretty big demand, coming from a junior member. Jessie doesn't even have the courage to say this to Kristy's face. She forces Mallory to deliver the bad news for her. Throwing Mallory under the bus, eh? The obvious solution is to let Jessie skip Friday meetings, but nobody really entertains that possibility because it's way more dramatic for the girls to argue over having Thursday meetings. Kristy complains no one is taking things seriously. Abby interrupts and tries to force a vote on the topic, like she's still in charge. Kristy decides to put on a fall festival. She comes up with a bunch of ideas like apple picking and making maple sugar. The other girls act like these are terrible, weird ideas. But honestly, it's no worse than other ideas she's had, like, let's make a float for babies. Claudia and Marianne babysit the Barrett DeWitt kids, who are wild. Marianne calms them down with board games. Claudia barges in like a jerk and makes rude jokes that Marianne's plans are boring. She forces the kids to do messy art projects instead. Marianne and Claudia are mad at each other for the rest of the book. I don't quite understand why Claudia is so mad about what happened. All Marianne did was sulk and mutter under her breath instead of defending herself. Typical Marianne. Kristy's plans fall apart when it turns out the city has its own fall festival. The girls have more scheduling problems, and Abby says attendance at BSC meetings should be optional. The meetings could easily be done by one person. She's right, but Kristy is so mad at her friends, she storms off. Kristy babysits Jackie Radowski. The Radowskis haven't had any storylines since book 63. So long time no see, Jackie. Kristy orders Jackie to not climb a tree multiple times, but he ignores her, he falls out and breaks his ankle. Kristy feels like the worst babysitter ever. Abby and Marianne show up late to the next meeting because they were shopping. Is that a good excuse for neglecting the Babysitters Club? No! Even more scheduling issues come up. Kristy gets mad at everyone, especially Abby, who turns everything Kristy says into a joke. Kristy says they should disband the club because they can't do their jobs right, and it's making them miserable. She puts it to a vote. Everyone agrees to quit the Babysitters Club, except Mallory and Jessie.
The words caught in my throat. I, Kristy Thomas, hereby declare that the Babysitters Club no longer exists.
Trying to walk away from the BSC? Pfft, you'll be back. Kristy feels relieved now that the club is gone. She hangs out with her family, and her friends seem okay at school. Claudia needs help with biology. Kristy starts rapping about different parts of the body. Wait, no, that was the Babysitters Club movie. The study session is constantly interrupted by parents who are calling for babysitters. Yes, the parents in town are so desperate for cheap childcare, they keep calling for weeks. Mr. Papadakis even offers to pay them a monthly retainer to keep the club going. That's how much he wants to avoid dealing with his own kids. Abby has a soccer game with the neighborhood kids. Kristy offers to help teach them how to play soccer, but Abby ignores what Kristy is doing and taunts Kristy for being a bad soccer player. Abby is a jerk in this book. Why is Kristy friends with her? Other kids at school start babysitting. Kristy can't help but eavesdrop on their conversations and give them unsolicited advice. Typical Kristy. Kristy's arch-nemesis Cookie Mason babysits. She goes shopping for herself instead of watching the kids. Kristy is so mad, she screams. Jamie Newton gets upset because he thinks the babysitters hate him. Poor Jamie. Mrs. Prezioso has an emergency and scrambles to find a sitter. She complains life was way easier with the Babysitters Club. Mrs. P is conveniently forgetting that it's Saturday. The club doesn't meet on Saturdays. She would have to scramble for a last-minute sitter even if the club was still around. Jackie Radowski worries his accident is what caused the Babysitters Club to break up. He goes to apologize to Kristy, only he falls off his bike and lands in the hospital. All the babysitters are there when he makes his confession, and it is an emotional scene. I wish the book had started the resolution here. Instead, we get a chapter where Mallory closes a door on her sister's finger. Mallory panics. Kristy and Mallory's parents try to convince her it was just an accident. Kristy realizes this is a mirrored storyline. She and Mallory are both good sitters, even if their clients were hurt by accident. There's only one chapter left, so let's rush through a resolution. Kristy gives the Babysitters Club another chance. Marianne and Claudia end their fight, and Jesse's scheduling conflict has magically disappeared, so they can have Friday meetings again. You know what they should have done? They should have accepted Mr. Papadakis' monthly retainer. If they're gonna restart the club anyway, they might as well get paid for it. The end. Post-book follow-up. I thought this book was okay. It would have been better if the story was Kristy temporarily quits the club, not the entire BSC is disbanded forever. Kristy is the only character who hasn't had drama about quitting the club, so that story would have worked. The ending tries to play it off like the problem was Kristy's confidence issues after Jackie is hurt. No, that's not the main reason the club broke up. The main problems were scheduling and nobody taking things seriously. Those problems are not completely resolved in the last chapter. This book has a lot of negative reviews. I think they're mostly from casual fans who hadn't read any of the BSC books in years. They picked this one up because it's the big number 100, only to discover that Dawn was replaced by some Abby girl who literally destroys the club. That's not a fun surprise. If I had stopped reading these books in the 30s and then skipped ahead to this one, I wouldn't like it either. The casual reviewers hate how the girls are starting 8th grade for the 9th year in a row and how everyone is out of character. I don't know how to get around that problem. The story is about the club being disbanded. Everyone has to be out of character in order to let that happen. There's no way they would normally destroy the club. The book sidelines Marianne and Claudia with a pointless feud, then ignores the other club members, particularly Stacy and Jesse. That was a bad way to handle the problem of the girls being out of character. Let's just ignore them, then people won't worry. Overall, I think the book does a decent job with the bad premise. It has too many complaints that the Babysitters Club is tired and old, not as much fun as it used to be. It almost felt like they were complaining about the book series in general. Really, Book 100 should have been a big celebration book, not an angry, sad book where everyone ruins the beloved club. What happened to the girls being the best friends you'll ever have? I give Babysitters Club number 100, Kristy's worst idea, a 4 out of 10.